Welcome to Hockey Unplugged. I'm here with Jack Shia and our guest today, Chase Nelson. We're going to be going over the future of Elias Lindholm on the Flames. And I'm not really a Flames expert here, so I'll pass it over to Jack.
All right, I just want to thank Chase for coming on. He's been begging for weeks now to come on the show, so he eventually gave in. No, I'm just kidding. But we invited Chase on. He's our good buddy, so we're just going to talk about some Elias Lindholm news, some Flames news, and I'll pass it off to our guest here.
Well, so basically, like, Elias Lindholm is like a 2024 UFA, so there's been discussions about like an extension. Connor has been like talking to Lindholm, seeing where he lies on like if he wants to stay in Calgary or not. But like and he's like trying desperately, and we're kind of focused right now on trying to extend Lindholm, but I don't know if that's like the best decision going forward, like rolling out the red carpet and pulling all our chips in to go all out and re-sign this guy, because it doesn't really fit with our direction.
Yeah, exactly. When I was looking sort of, I guess, just at our cap situation, and we obviously have so much money locked into a lot of guys right now, and it's just, I guess you can say we're trying to win now, just with the way Conroy started his press conference when he first came here. He said Lindholm is a priority and we want to bring him in, so I see where he's coming from.
Like, I see where he's a priority, but like, we already have Calgary, who's 32, Huberdeau, who's entering his 30s, and Uyghur, who's in his late 20s. Like, we're going to have all these guys locked up long-term in the 30s. And by the time that the Lindholm contract, like if we extended him, would actually kick in, he'd be in his 30s already. And I don't know if that's the best decision to have 4 guys locked long-term for high value into their late 30s, especially because like, it's kind of like, you can want to see how, because Lindholm hasn't made a decision yet on if he wants to return, like we're probably going to have to give him like north of 9 million, 8.5 mil to get him to stay in. Like, Lindholm's a great player. He's done lots for Calgary, but I don't know if he's just worth that value, especially entering his 30s.
Yeah, I know. And like you said, the AAV is probably going to be north of 9 million. I know you saw it, but I think we offered him 9x8, and that's like a 72 million contract, like overall. So like logically and like money wise, I don't even think it's really possible to fit Lindholm into the cap. Because if you look into our future as well, what happens when guys like Pelche and Coronado come out of their EL season? Let's say they're flirting with like 20 goals.
Yeah.
They're going to be wanting like 3 million, and we can't afford that because we have 9 million into Lindholm and like 10.5 into Huberdeau.
Because we're going to have like, what, 30-40% of our cap space locked into 4 guys. And let's be honest, none of them in their 30s are not going to be generational talents who can help a team compete right away. Especially because Lindholm's like best season was with who drove 115-point guy in Kachuk, and you've seen what Kachuk is. It's like, he's not going to have a season like that again. Is he a great two-way guy? Yes, but like, he'd fit much better as like a second-line center on a contending team.
Sure.
Yeah, and even if like, because we don't have the best prospect system, we're being honest. But if, let's say, like these guys, like you mentioned, like Pelche and Coronado and maybe Hans, it comes up and they just start producing, like 4 years into that Lindholm deal, we're going to be wanting, oh, well, we need to sign these guys because now these guys are our core, because all these 30-year-olds are aged and they're not helping us. Like, it just kind of just settles at us into that mediocrity for the next 9 years. So, like
in my
experience,
like in my opinion, Lindholm just right now is being so overvalued by the Flames.
Oh, like, for sure.
Like if you wanted to sign him to an extension, honestly, I think a fair AAV is like around 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, like, the market is inflated. Like Aho,
Aho
better. Lindholm and like Barzal, they got like 9 million, but they're so much younger. And it like fits more with their timeline of the team. Like Carolina, I don't think any of us think they're gonna have this good of a team again, maybe in the next 10 years. So they're kind of putting all their chips in, try to win now with the moves they've made. And he's their main forward, so it makes sense and he fits their system. Whereas like, we just have a new coach who I think is going to be more offensive minded, and I don't know if like Huberdeau, who might play with Lindholm, is going to help him elevate that to get to that point per game pace again.
Yeah, I mean, like Lindholm, like you said about point per game, he's only been point per game once in his career. Yeah. And Conroy's willing to give a guy like that 9.5. And it's not like he's like 23 years old, had like a point per game when he was 21. He is 28 and he turns 29 in December.
Yeah, but 2024 UFA, he's gonna like
Yeah,
Already into that first year, he's going to be 30, which like is not good value.
exactly. I also want to mention, like we've obviously been kind of wanting a trade for Lindholm for the past while, right? But I think the market right now, just because Connor is kind of locked up and everyone knows, oh, Lindholm doesn't want to be here, so there's not really a market for him right now.
Oh,
So I guess maybe if he was to look to trade him, it is better to wait a little bit. I don't know,
maybe wait till like the deadline.
yeah,
Or,
maybe you wait to the deadline. But then the issue you run into is what if we're first in the Pacific
yeah,
again? You're not trading your
'cause-
1C.
yeah, and like I like even if we finish first in Pacific, like this team just doesn't scream contender to me. Like relies heavily on the goaltending, which is a big what if. And like there's
Yeah,
just too many
exactly.
what ifs with that team, and I feel like the management and like Murray Edwards, they're trying all this just to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
They kind of
exactly.
think that the fans will only be happy
Yeah,
making the playoffs, even though like Flames have never really had a true rebuild. It's always been
no,
kind of rushed. So
like
I mean, it's kind of hard to rebuild with Huberto and Kadri locked up, but like we can't afford to lock up four guys in the
nah.
30
Like
long
I
term.
think our last like legit rebuild was probably the start of the Gaudreau era, but even then we rushed the rebuild, right? Because after that 2015 run, we go out and trade our first rounder for Dougie Hamilton, trade our first rounder in like 2016 for Travis
Travis
Hamonic.
Hamonic.
We
And
rushed
they
the
didn't know what
rebuild, man.
dogs in.
Yeah, exactly. Something else I want to mention too is I think I've heard other Flames fans talk about this, but the way we're treating Lindholm right now is how we should have treated Gaudreau in
Oh, like
2021.
exactly.
Like we're rolling out the red carpet for him the year before he's a UFA. Why did we not do that for
I
Gaudreau?
know, dude. Like, didn't like Gaudreau's parents say that if we offered like anything near what he got, he would
Yeah,
have been in Calgary for 8 years. We like embarrassed him with an offer. Like,
yeah,
let's just let the guy who's had like 100-point season and 90-point season already with our team just like lowball him,
I
make him
know.
embarrassed,
It doesn't look
and
good, but
insult him. But then the guy who's been 1 point per game, and like let's be
he's
honest,
not even homegrown.
no,
Got him through
ever
trade.
since Lindholm has been at the Flames, he's played with Monahan, Gaudreau, or Kachuk his entire tenure.
Exactly.
Like
So
he's a
I
great
don't know.
two-way guy, but like he's been with these great line mates his entire
Yeah,
career.
like I
Even the tough
understand.
goalie had a career year and he was playing with him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know you guys already kind of talked about this a little bit, but even if you can re-sign Lindholm, like the Flames seem like they want to, there's so many UFAs coming up in the
Yeah,
2024-25 season. You guys just won't be able to re-sign anyone else if you
no,
sign
Yeah,
Lindholm. You're gonna
exactly. Because
have,
he's gonna make so much.
yeah, and he's 28, right?
Yeah,
He's
28.
gonna
He
want an
turns
8-year
29 in
deal.
December.
Yeah,
yeah, for
he's
sure
gonna
gonna want to
be
cash in.
all your money's into older guys right now. I don't think you want to add to that, honestly.
Like right now, we're already over the cap, and Lindholm's next
Yeah.
contract hasn't even kicked in.
Yeah,
And
Like,
we
what is
still
our
play
plan? Yeah, and we missed the playoffs. So what's
like
our plan? Who are we gonna move?
doesn't make sense.
Like we can't do it. It just doesn't make
Like
any
I
sense to sign him
like I feel like the best direction would be because like we are locked into Huberto and Kadri, and
for sure.
like what you can say about those contracts, like it's done now. You can't change it. Just
Yeah,
gonna have to like deal with it. And like maybe a buyout is possible like 5 years down the road, but you can't do it now. Like Huberto's contract just started.
yeah. And
Kadri's a bit
Uyghurs.
shorter. Yeah, and Uyghurs. But like maybe you kind of need to do like get younger, retool slash rebuild on the
Mhm.
fly. Like you can try to like have Huberto and Kadri as your core pieces.
Yeah,
Like we have Elcho, we have Coronado, Onzit. But if we just keep rolling along, trying to make the playoffs, be getting 16 pick, 17 pick, 18 pick, it's just never gonna work out. So now it's kind of like a good opportunity to trade younger for like a younger center, like Alex Newhook type. Like I know he got traded, but someone like that who's
yeah,
23, maybe like has some potential, but they haven't
yeah,
like lived up to it yet. Like Lafreniere could be a
yeah.
possibility.
yeah, that's
But
what I
at
was
the
kind of
same
thinking.
time, if you get like a lottery pick, then you can like rebuild, get younger at the same time while you have these term older
Yeah.
guys.
I was gonna mention actually when you brought up the rebuild, a rebuild is still possible with this team. I know a lot of people are like, with the players you have now, you can't rebuild, but you actually can. Like you look at the Dallas Stars, for example. They had signed Jamie. I don't know what Jamie Benn's contract is off the top of my head, and same with Sagan's, but their high AAVs like well north of 9 million, but they still rebuilt.
Yeah,
Like
they
that
did.
2017 draft, they got Heiskanen, Robertson, and Ottinger. and they also have Hintz, they have Johnson, they have Stankoven coming up. So you can still rebuild with these
Yeah, I
types of
mean,
contracts.
they even got
That are the
Pavelski, who's
Sharks.
older.
Yeah, even Pavelski,
Like,
and you see Sagan and Banner still making impacts in their roles or just playing lower
yeah,
down the lineup, which is
second
still
line.
something
Yeah,
you can do.
exactly. Like maybe like you rebuild now, and for Huberto's like 32, and he's like 35. Kadri's like maybe they have 3 or 4 years left on the deal. Maybe then
Yeah.
you can compete with them being like key 30-point guys.
I'd
It- it-
assume sorry to cut you off, but I'd assume
No, fuck.
Uyghur and Kadri and Huberto obviously probably don't want to rebuild because they probably came here wanting to win just because of where they are in their career. But if we're just looking at the organizational standpoint, it just makes the most sense to at
Like it
least
is a
somewhat
bit.
rebuild. And if you
Yeah,
look to when is our new arena going to open up in like 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
You're maybe bad for up until then, and then by the time your new arena opens, you're like a young up and coming team, which
Yeah,
is
it's
what
an
everyone
exciting new
likes.
start.
Exactly.
And like, I feel like Murray Edwards is kind of out of touch with the fan base because like Flames fans are so loyal. We've gone through mediocrity. He's scared of a rebuild. But like we want to get younger because younger is more exciting players. Like even if Huberto had 100-point season last year, we'd be kidding ourselves if we said he's a pretty boring player to watch. Even when he's
Yeah.
performing, it's just like, okay, he's a good playmaker. He's not making those Goudreau
Yeah,
style
he's not
offensive zone
I don't know what you
possession.
call it, dynamic. He's not a
And he's not a
dynamic
play
player.
drive.
No.
He's a great player. He feeds well off of others, but like we kind of see what he does without maybe a bar cover, like a purely offensive system. Whereas if you did rebuild, like maybe he's a second liner, third liner who can just focus on offensive game. If we have like two-way or a good defensive core, you can just focus on like being offensive. And maybe you could be like a 60-point guy
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
contender down the road.
I think it's also important to mention we're not like Lindholm slandering right now. I actually am
No,
a big fan of Lindholm. I
yeah,
have a Lindholm jersey. It's just with the way we use our cap space already, it just we can't afford to do
no,
it
it
in any
doesn't
way.
make sense.
Let's say in an alternate universe we re-signed Gaudreau and Kachuk last year, we're contenders. I'd 100% be willing to throw like 9 million at Lindholm.
Yeah, because you have that same line together,
Yeah.
so you know Lindholm's potential. Whereas we have no idea what a 30-year-old Lindholm is going to look like without those two. Let alone because he did regress pretty heavily this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he put up 64 points in 80 games. So I mean it's not bad, but
Yeah, that's still what you're going to expect from him, like two-way.
it's not 9 million. It doesn't scream $9 million to me.
I know it does. Like I love Lindholm as well, but I want what's best for like the franchise as a fan. Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's not like it's not like he's homegrown, like attachment that I had to Goudreau. Because like
Yeah,
Goudreau, if he stayed, he would have been all-time leader in points, goals,
exactly.
assists, jersey retirements. Like it would mean something
Yeah.
different. Whereas like Kachuk, like at least he addressed like early on that he just didn't want to stay, and we had that opportunity to trade him.
If the Flames are looking to trade Lindholm, which I think is probably a good idea if that's possible for them, I think a really good team for him to go to would be the Rangers for Lafreniere.
Yeah, I actually like that.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Okay,
No,
so
I was just saying that's a good idea. Like
yeah,
never thought of the Rangers as a possibility, but I like it.
and I think Lafreniere is not performing like he could be on the Rangers, and I saw a few people kind of talking about like obviously he needs to get on a different team, right? So I think the Flames could be a good opportunity for Lafreniere, and I think going to the Rangers could be a great opportunity for Lindholm.
Yeah, 'cause it's
the
kind of a
Rangers don't have
contending
a great
team.
Yeah, sorry, Chase. But the Rangers, they don't have like a great development system there. So I do think I don't want to start talking about the Rangers, but I do think a change of scenery for Lafreniere would be probably the smartest thing for his career and even
Yeah.
the Rangers.
If he like did get shitted to the Flames, he'd get a higher elevated role because he's
Exactly.
slot in on that
Yeah.
first line.
Probably.
Because like we definitely give him a chance. He'd be first line power play. Like who knows? Like,
Exactly.
he has the skill. He's a raw talent. Like people like that don't just like fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like, he was considered generational talent. He still definitely has potential. He just needs like a right situation, not the lackluster development of the
Yeah.
Rangers.
Yeah.
All right. I do also want to mention one more trade destination for Lindholm. It's kind of just come up recently in the news with the retirement of Patrice Bergeron. The Bruins need a 1C. Because right now, if you look at their depth chart, their 1C would be Pavel Zacha, I think. And
Yeah.
I don't know if Pavel Saka's a 1C on a contender, which I know the Bruins want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Especially with there's like they do not have a good prospect pool or future,
No.
but they have like younger forwards that we could trade.
I was wondering what could be a package, maybe Fabian Lysell and a
So yeah,
first or something, some first.
well,
I
that
don't
would,
know.
I'd honestly be fine with that because like I just feel like the Flames do extend Lindholm. It locks us. It just
It
like
does.
it puts us in a stranglehold for the next 8 years with no ability to do anything but try and win now.
Yeah, I think people are almost underestimating how scary this contract can be. Like if he
No,
signs this, we will literally, like I'm not even exaggerating, we will probably be the most depressing team in the NHL in like 4 years. We will be the next Sharks. Look at the Sharks right now. They're trying to trade Carlson and his contract is massive. We're gonna be trying to do that with Lindholm when he's like 45.
They have
You're
Vlasic,
ridiculous.
who's making 7 mil as like a 34-year-old who hasn't been good, like even relatively good for the past 4 seasons. And they're
That's what
never
we're
gonna get
setting
that
ourselves up
contract.
for. That's exactly what we're. And look, they don't even have a great prospect pool either. Like, I mean, they had a good draft just now. They got
They
Musty and
did.
Smith.
Like the Wild with Parise and Suter, they
Yeah.
really had to buy out those contracts.
Yeah.
And although
And
Wilds are in a different situation because they have loads of young talent and they have like a young son Kaprizov, it's kind of walking them until next year until those contracts are up.
Yeah.
They'd honestly be a contender if they had that cap space.
Yeah, they have so much dead cap. I don't know how much it is, but they do have a lot of dead cap with those contracts.
And if we look at those contracts, how that turned out, well, the Wild were mid for that entire tenure that they were. They were just either first round exit, barely making the playoffs, or 15th pick.
That's
like
what we're.
luckily they had good development in drafting to like Kaprizov was like 150th overall.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna
No,
you
it's just
can't
pure
rely
luck,
on
but
you can't rely on that.
no.
Like the Flames had that with Gaudreau and we kind of scrambled that opportunity.
Yeah.
Rushing.
We fumbled the bag for sure with the Gaudreau
Last
era.
Last year was our best chance, but
What's the Flames development program like? Is it good or no?
I think
Like,
recently
no.
it's getting quite a bit better. Like you're
I
seeing
think
guys
it's
like
better.
Elche and is like graduate to the NHL Zary. Like our AHL team has been really good. Wolf obviously is considered the best
Yeah.
goaltending prospect. So it's actually getting better than it used to be, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think that like although like the AHL we were good because we had some veterans, there's also a lot of young talent on that team who were performing, like Zari, Poirier, Elche, Phillips. They're all doing good. I think like the development team is pretty good, and like Wolf, but I don't think we're utilizing any of these young players at all.
No, not in the NHL level at least.
Like what did Phillips need to do? Like he got like 4 games.
Yeah, I think he got 2 NHL games with the Flames. That's it.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
And we didn't even offer Mitch Love an assistant coaching job.
Yeah, there's a lot of Flames slandering that could go on right now.
What do you guys think about maybe Tampa as a possibility for Lindholm?
I feel like that's a good fit because like you do see Stamkos like slotting on the wing a lot now.
Yeah.
Like he's not really that center that he once was, and he'll point obviously he's that number 1 seat. Like he would fit perfectly on that second center. We like, do they really have the assets to get it done or the cap space? Because that's kind of the question. Because of course you can't question like Tampa is a great core and like their GM just finds things that work. They just consistently make the playoffs, go on deep runs. And like they had Vasilevsky, like they had this core that could compete for like 3 to 4 years. So if they do want to go for like another cup, I think that could be a good pickup. But it's just like, well, do they have the cap space? Do they have the assets to work? That's kind of
another thing you could think about is, or if we just trade Lindholm to a contender like that, he could just be utilized as a rental. Like we could probably trade him to Tampa and like retain like half of his salary, and then acquire more assets because we retain that.
Yeah, that honestly might be a smart move for the Flames, like just retaining some of his salary, just getting rid of him for now.
Right now, his contract's only like 5 mil. Like, so he wants to cash out. Like, I feel like something like this could work. Like, you trade him to Boston. They need their number 1 center. You maybe like 30% retain it. You get like Lysell, maybe a first. They have him for that year. And then if they don't have the cap space to re-sign him, he probably goes free agency and he signs with someone like Columbus.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
An upcoming team that's like younger that wants like win.
Exactly.
Honestly, in a couple of years, I could probably see him on Columbus, just maybe because Gaudreau is there.
Yeah. There's a lot of rumors with that. Honestly, if he went to Columbus, I don't think I'd necessarily like them, but they'd be a fun team to watch for sure.
Yeah. They would be.
And I feel like Carolina could be a possibility, like a
Yeah.
there.
Carolina.
They kind of fits their system because he's kind of like an Aho type
Yeah.
player.
A little
Really
bit.
good
Like
two-way.
they do need goal scoring, and like Lindholm did have a 40-goal season. Obviously, I was playing with Goudreau and Chuck, but
Mhm.
I feel like he kind of slots in that 30-goal, 70-point guy. Usually, that's
Yeah.
two-way, which would be a perfect two-way center for Carolina, and probably pushes them over the hump because their defense is stacked. But yet again, it's like, okay, cap space and do what assets do they have to trade? Rental could work as well there.
I was gonna mention, I think I do really like the Carolina destination. Obviously, that's where it's drafted, so he kind of goes back to his original roots. But I think if you slot Lindholm in that 2C spot, Aho, Lindholm, that's probably gonna be one of the best like 1-2 punches down the middle in the league, which would be really awesome. And I think we talked about it in our last episode, Carson and I, but a lot of the signings and just cap space looks for the next few years, they're really trying to win like probably this year because they have a lot of guys expiring next year. Obviously, they extended Aho, but a lot of their guys are expiring next year. So you could literally bring Lindholm in as a rental. We'll retain half his salary and it works.
It worked perfectly because they just signed Orlov like that 2-year deal. Like they're all in. It's not like maybe we can win. Like maybe we can lose 2 more times and compete. They've kind of had those 3 to 2 years of failure. Let's say.
Yeah, if they're gonna win, they need to do it like now.
I also really like Carolina for what they have on their team. Like they have a lot of like good young players that would be like attractive for the Flames to snag. Like Nietzsche, Jarvis would be interesting. And obviously we're not going to start doing mock trades right now, but they're probably out of all the contenders, they probably have the most attractive pool to look at and get.
I think Jarvis would be nice for the Flames.
Yeah, he'd be pretty sweet. Isn't he from like Alberta or something? Thought he was, maybe not.
I think he is. I think he might be right.
I'm not too sure. But... All right, last thoughts. I just want to wrap up with you guys as we've kind of been talking about this pretty much the entire episode. But I think honestly, just for the team standpoint, what would be the best for the Flames is go into a rebuild for 2 to 4 years while we're still in the Saddle Dome, be bad. Once the new arena opens up in like 5 to 6 years, we got guys like Pelche who will be like mid-20s, Coronado mid-20s. They're going to be good. We have guys like Honzik coming up. Yeah. We get some lottery picks, maybe even in the top 5. Who knows? Maybe win the lottery or something. One of those 4 years. And then by the time the new arena opens, we're ready to go. We have a nice homegrown team, which is what everyone
exciting.
Likes. Want a homegrown team.
Yeah.
Not a free agency trade team, which we are right now. And then like that would be so much better. I think pretty much every fan can agree they'd way rather watch a young homegrown team rather than 35-year-olds making $10 million that aren't even drafted by.
I feel like although Murray Edwards thinks if we go through a rebuild, no one's going to watch the games, I feel like that's not true just because we do have like Wolf who you could watch play or like Pelche. But even if you have like maybe like a slight decrease in attendance over those new years, once you get into that new arena with like an exciting team and actually like maybe a core generational talent to cheer for, so we don't have Goudreau anymore. Like that's going to attract a lot of new fans.
Exactly.
Or maybe like younger. Because like the younger generation is like, you saw like when Bedard was at the Saddle Dome, like how excited they got.
Exactly.
Like if the Flames actually had that player, their attendance would be great. And like Flames fans are loyal. They're not just like, I want to be mid.
Like I'd still 100%, if we rebuilt like the next 2 to 4 years, I'd still watch every game. Like I wouldn't even change my watching. Like I'd still watch. Like, dude, remember that last game of the season when we had Coronado and Wolfling? That was like the most exciting game of the year, and it literally meant nothing.
Bro, honestly, like I hadn't watched games for like 2 weeks from that point because I was like, this team is just destined to
fair,
the 16th pick we did. But that last game, I tuned in. I was excited to see how
it was. And you saw like everyone was chanting like Wolf and like howling when you make a save. Like
it doesn't matter against the San Jose Sharks. Like you just want to see those young
guys. We want to see our homegrown talent like succeed. That's what brings fans in. That's how you win cups is through the draft, not through free agency signings.
Like Flames still never had a top 3 pick ever, and our highest pick was Sam Bennett.
Yeah,
like that's not drawn.
I know how that turned out, but
and like even
for another day.
I feel like the Conroy era as well. Like he's had 1 draft on his belt. I feel like he had a good draft with like Lauren and like Sunyev and Honzik. Like maybe Honzik like could have traded down if you wanted him. Or whatever, and it maybe wasn't like the best pick available. But it's not a bad pick. You can't say, they left this guy on the table. That's a terrible pick. It's a good pick, and he's a big, strong guy who's fast. So like, he's raw potential. So like we do have like exciting young talent, but to build on that once we get into the new arena it'd be great for the team.
Yeah, just be great for the organization. Just kind of turn a page and really just sort of enter an era where you can actually sustainably make the playoffs year after year, like Tampa, like Colorado. Opposed to this, we make it this year, but we're out in 5. At least we got 2 games of playoff revenue, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like that every year, and we just need to change that, I think. And the way we change that is trade Lindholm. Conroy, if you're listening to this podcast, trade Elias Lindholm for the sake of the franchise.
Please, Greg.
I don't hate Lindholm, but we need to trade you. I'm sorry, buddy.
I'm just like, I feel like that's also a problem. Is like the Flames generate so much playoff revenue because it's always absolutely packed in the red lot, and like the city goes bizarre that like the owner, like greedy owner, is just like, oh, we need to make playoffs, so money.
Exactly.
It's kind of unfortunate, but that's just reality.
Even if that's the way they're gonna look at it, like give it a couple of years, rebuild, and you'll be making the playoffs more often, and you'll be in the playoffs for longer.
Like every year, like actually like streaks of playoffs.
Yeah.
Flames just make the playoffs, miss.
Yeah.
Like look at like Colorado. Their playoff revenue is way nicer than ours, and literally just last year because they went to the Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like a team that might not be like the most popular, like Florida, they didn't have like the most popular fans. Them by making the playoffs 2 years in a row and going to the Cup in the second round, right? I think they might be the best example. That generates more revenue than the Flames who might sell out every single game for a year, but then miss it and then make it again and sell out every game.
Yeah.
Like you generate more revenue by being consistent and actually an exciting team to watch than maybe other other fans from other teams might want to come to like the new arena. So that sucks.
Yeah,
it does. Alrighty, guys. Well, thanks, Chase, again for coming on. We appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate some guest insight. It was fun to have you on here, and have you on some other time. But yeah, we want to thank you guys for tuning into it. This is our 5th episode of Hockey Unplugged. We appreciate that. Make sure to follow us on all our socials, TikTok, Instagram. It really helps if you interact with all our posts. It helps us grow the podcast. So we appreciate that. We thank you guys for listening to this episode, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.